Hi everyone, this is your North Pole World Heavyweight Champion Santa, wishing you all a Merry Christmas and hoping you'll enjoy this installment of WrestleBeards Worldwide.
WrestleBeards, we got all your wrestling gear. WrestleBeards, hairy man with dirty beards. WrestleBeards Worldwide.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the second ever WrestleBeards Worldwide podcast. I'm your host Shrek, joined by my co-host, the wonderful
Luke Carpenter. Hi guys, nice to see you all. Thanks for watching.
So we've had some really good feedback from last week's podcast from a variety of our friends and those on the interwebby world. I'm just really happy that we've got this off the ground, Luke.
Yeah, quite overwhelming actually, the feedback on it. People were very, very generous and very kind about both you and I and about our back and forth. Obviously, the friendship and the what we've had in the years of knowing each other shine through the camera. So yeah, I'm pleased with how it went, and it gives you the impetus to want to keep on doing it.
Definitely. Well, just to give our subscribers and our friends out there an update on how the week's been, we started with our first video, which is an interview with myself, letting our viewers know about how I got into wrestling and my likes and dislikes about the industry. We followed that up a few days later with the podcast, the first podcast, which was where we introduced you to Luke. And Luke told us again about how he got into wrestling and some of his likes and dislikes about the industry. And it was a really awesome hour of discussion. And we also debuted some of our features for the podcast, like our top 3 and our homework. And we're going to unveil a few more today. And then a few days later, we released our first unboxing video, which was me telling about what I scoffed up during Black Friday, which you can see behind me, my pride and joy, my baby, my WWE title. So it was a really awesome, busy week. Lots of people getting on board and subscribing. I just want to give a few shout outs to some of our new subscribers, Luke. So we've got Edmund, wonderful Edmund. We've got Akmal. We've got Sam Maybe. Joel, our good buddy Joel. We've got Keith. We've got Scott Vitogan. We've got Calvina. Don't know who she is.
No,
and we've got Erna. Not even sure who she is. But yeah, that's just a few of our new subscribers. Do you have any more shout outs, Luke?
I'll shout out to Ben Hess back home. He was the one who sent me the message saying about you and I, and he's a wrestling fan from back in the day, like a big Papa Shango fan. He talks about him a lot, so shout out to Ben Hess. Yeah, to my brother. He was the guy I used to take to the wrestling shows, and said to me that listening to the show the other day actually made him want to get back into wrestling. So that was good.
Fantastic. Well, of course, it's the week of Christmas. As you can see, I'm getting into the festive spirit. It's not so great on the ears, though. And it's a week of giving. And you're about to give us our new segment. Do you want to lead us into it?
Yes. So we've got a new segment this week, and it is the news of the week that we have titled "And the News." Just similar to how a new champion would be announced in the wrestling world and the fighting world. So it's a ties-on kind of point. So this is summing up the relevant, recent, interesting news of the week in the professional world of wrestling. So the first one, hasn't been formally announced by the WWE, and good old loose lips Ric Flair actually announced it when perhaps he shouldn't have done. But it's about the Hall of Fame building, the attraction around the Hall of Fame, and obviously the Hall of Fame throughout the years has gained more and more success and glamour, and it's the night before WrestleMania generally. I would imagine there will be a long and overdue inductee in there for the next Hall of Fame. I'm sure me and Shrek both have an idea of who that will be. But yeah, so the Hall of Fame building, somewhere obviously where they can have memorabilia from the old school wrestlers, the Hall of Famers, Hall of Fame wrestlers that are already in the Hall of Fame and going into the Hall of Fame. And it's going to be based out of Orlando. In regards to when, there has been nothing announced, and the news sites that I'm reading are basically saying don't go ahead and book flights to Orlando to see it, because it is very loosely termed. But what's your thoughts on it? Is something you would be interested in going to see, Shrek?
It's definitely something I'd be interested in. I actually like museums and things like that myself, and especially ones that have memorabilia.
Yeah.
I've always liked going to the Hard Rock Cafe and places like that for music memorabilia. So I think it'd be pretty cool to go and check out.
Yeah, me too.
And again, like Ric Flair, he could have been drinking too much of his cough syrup, and he might be just barking up the wrong tree and just spewing out garbage.
Yes, it could be that.
If there was a Hall of Fame, though, yeah, I'd definitely check it out.
I would.
Sure.
Yeah, I would. Absolutely. So the next item on the agenda of the news this week, I think it was Wednesday, it was released, the Slammy Awards. And then the Slammy Awards are then going to be this following Wednesday. And something that I always enjoy, because yeah, it's still kept in with the characters and the kayfabe and the storylines, but it's showing appreciation to the wrestlers and the storylines and the booking that has been a success over the years. So we've got many different nominations, which I'm going to categories, which I'm going to go over, and then me and Shrek can talk about who we think will win. So firstly, we've got the Superstar of the Year, we've got the Match of the Year, Rivalry of the Year, the Tag Team of the Year, the Returner of the Year, the Ring Gear of the Year, which I think is a bit naff, the Breakout Star of the Year, the Female Superstar of the Year, the Male Superstar of the Year, and the Moment of the Year. So who would be your Superstar of the Year, male or female?
Wow, it's hard to think of the whole year, because it's been an interesting one, and obviously a very long and drawn out one. My male Superstar of the Year would probably be Drew McIntyre.
Yep.
Just because he's been there throughout. Roman Reigns obviously would be up there, but he wasn't there for the whole year.
No.
So yeah, I'd go with Drew McIntyre. My female, I'd probably go with Bayley. I think she had one of the best years as part of the role models with Sasha, tag champs, women's champ, and some great feuds. Yeah, so that'd be my two. What about you?
I would go Drew McIntyre as well. Likewise, he's been there throughout. He also had a bit of a rough time with the pandemic of winning the Rumble, and we were going to headline the WrestleMania, and then it was behind closed doors. So I think he's kept his chin up. He obviously lost his title to Autumn, then retained, or then regained it back. Sorry, not retained, then earned it back. Yeah, I think he's been excellent, and like you said before, he carries this sense of this kind of aura now of a mega superstar. Like he's up there with some of the best, and I think that's due to this year. I'm going to disagree with you slightly with the Bayley one. I'm going to say Sasha Banks. I think Sasha Banks has put on some excellent shows. I think her work in her promos has really got a lot better. I have enjoyed what Bayley's doing. And I really like the role models work between the two of them. But then when Bayley turned on Sasha Banks and they had their fight back and forth, I thought was excellent, and Sasha Banks did a little better in that. Let's have a look at the Rivalry of the Year. So we've got Seth Rollins and Mysterio fan. We've got Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, Edge and Orton, Sasha Banks and Bayley, R-Truth versus The World, and Lana versus Announcer Tables. So a couple of funny ones in there. What would get your Rivalry of the Year?
Oh, obviously it would be R-Truth versus the World. That sounds like one that's going to go down in history. I don't know, really. I have been intrigued by the Rollins-Mysterio rivalry. I thought that was interesting. It got a bit silly with the taking the eye out match, but overall, I think it brought in some new stars. Gave light to Buddy Murphy.
It did, yeah.
Obviously, Dominic Mysterio and Alia Mysterio, who came out of nowhere, and her creepy relationship with Buddy Murphy. Yeah, I don't know if that's something I should like or not, really. But
I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, it's probably my feud of the year. What about you?
I'll go Sasha Banks and Bailey. Linking on to the previous point, like their stuff was excellent to watch. Obviously, it's died down a little bit. You did mention previously that maybe there's a little bit of life still in it, and Bailey will challenge for the title again. Because obviously she's now sort of in the mid card at the moment. She's not at the top anymore, but still cutting good promos, still doing a good job week in, week out. My last one that I want to ask you about is moment of the year. Now it's got many here, which I'm not gonna run through. But what was your moment in wrestling of the year?
Of WWE, of course, I guess it is. Well, that's a hard one. I guess it was. It would have been seeing Drew McIntyre win that title at WrestleMania. Yeah. Just knowing that he'd come from, almost obscurity. He'd been in the what was it, the 3-man band with Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal. Being kicked out of the company. Yeah. He went over TNA and made a bit of a name for himself, but he came back and now, like, I don't even know why they could have ever not looked at him in this way. He's just phenomenal, and although it was a shame he didn't get to do it in front of a live audience, it was a pretty special moment. So yeah, that would be mine.
Yeah, the way he won it as well, it was a good back and forth fight between him and Brock, wasn't it? And there were moments in that match where I was absolutely 100% certain that McIntyre was leaving champion, but there were moments in there like when he took the F5 and I actually thought, oh no, he's not. They're doing it again. They're tricking us again. So no, that was good. Money in the Bank, I really, really enjoyed for some reason. I thought it was just a hoot. I thought it was hilarious. But my moment of the year was Edge returning at the Royal Rumble. That's a good one. Fantastic. And I watch that every now and then just because I get goosebumps still watching it. Like, it was so good. And I was never Edge's biggest fan, but I'm a fan of the man and I'm a fan of the bloke and what he's been through. And yeah, his return, if you haven't seen it, YouTube it. It's brilliant. It's really good.
For sure.
Right. And I'm just going back to my notes because I've got many notes on many different screens. Yeah, there we go. So the last bit, and this isn't, it's not real current news, but it's a real news talking point. And it's about the other company, Tony Khan's company down in Jacksonville. And Sting, 62-year-old Sting, who almost ends up not being able to walk again after in his injury with Seth Rollins, is now making a wrestling return to AEW. And the ratings. Oh my God, it's Sting! You scared the life out of me there. Yeah, like the seeing him back on TNT. There was the promo this week with him and Cody, and he looks like he's setting up an angle with Darby Allin, which I thought was really cool. And where like the way they did it with Darby Allin being in the stand and looking over and like looking down on the ring, just as Sting used to do, I thought was excellent. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty buzzed about it. I'm not excited to see Sting hobbling around and potentially injuring himself, but I'm excited for the storyline and I'm excited for the push that it's going to give Darby Allin. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, Sting is one of my all-time favorites. When I first got into wrestling, as you would have heard in my interview the other week, Sting was one of my first favorite wrestlers, and always have followed his career, even through Impact and onwards. Being in AEW, obviously, as an older man, 62, did you say?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be capable of any great matches or anything. In fact, I don't even really need to see him in a match. I'd like to see him just be some kind of enforcer, hanging in the rafters, coming down, throwing his weight around, sticking up for those who need to be stuck up for.
Yeah.
Potentially maybe a commissioner-style role, but I don't really need to see him in a match if he's old and injured. But like you said, with Darby Allin, who's kind of the modern-day Sting in some regards, mysterious character, whether it's feuding with him or maybe potentially supporting him, as AEW are good at pairing those old guy, new guys up, that could be something as well. Sting, though, he's obviously had some incarnations through the years. This Crow version is his most infamous. What about if he came back as one of his other ones, like the Surfer Sting?
The Surfer Sting.
What's the other one? He was the Joker.
He was the Joker, yeah. Obviously, we had when he was Wolfpack Sting as well. He's had a few, hasn't he? I personally, I think he is going to wrestle, but I think he'll be used seldom, like maybe two matches a year, because he signed a multi-year deal with them. Yeah. So I think 2 matches a year, and they're big pay-per-views. The build-up will be great. Obviously, he can create brilliant storylines. And if Cody is involved, because that confrontation there looked like maybe Cody he and Cody were going.
Maybe we're going to get the matchup we've always been looking forward to now in AEW of Sting versus Shaq.
Or Arn Anderson. Sting versus Arn Anderson. That would be watch between your fingers. So I think he will. I don't think for a while. Maybe next summer he'll have his first match. And I hadn't actually thought, like you said, maybe he's there to support Darby Allin. That would be pretty cool. Him and Darby Allin teaming up. That would be excellent.
For sure.
Tell him not to zip himself up in any more bags and get thrown out of a ring. The idiot. Right, that is the news for this week. We can take these ties off.
All right, let's get these ties off.
Oh, there we go. Save it for next week.
Save it for next week. All right. Well, thank you for that segment, Luke. That's going to be one to look forward to in the coming weeks. We also have a couple of new segments on the way through now. They're both takeaway segments. I'll be leading one about Raw, Luke one about SmackDown, the past week's Raw and SmackDowns. We're going to both choose 3 takeaways from each show. So we're not doing a review essentially, but just talking about 3 main points. And then we'll have a bit of discussion around those points. So I'll get it started with the Raw takeaway. So Raw this week, it was quite interesting. It wasn't the best Raw ever, but it wasn't the worst either.
No.
My first takeaway from Raw this week is the opening segment, which was called A Nightmare Before TLC. We saw in the ring The Miz with a book, and it wasn't Miz TV. It was the Dirt Sheet for some reason, which I don't really know the difference between Miz TV and the Dirt Sheet, but apparently there is. And then he started reading an old, like Charles Dickens style tale. And as he did, spotlights came into the ring, and we were treated to see AJ Styles and then Drew McIntyre, who was actually John Morrison, dressed up as basically Braveheart. And fake fight ensued. And it was a bit of comic madness, but it was very cringy, but it was also quite funny. There was a great moment when AJ wanted to put a spotlight on his big goon Omos. And Miz didn't like that, so he took the spotlight back off. So they read on, and there's a bit of pantomime going on, and then they were interrupted by Sheamus. Apparently, Drew McIntyre's best friend Sheamus, who, although that is true in real life, we've not seen much about this till recent times, which is interesting to say the least. And it led to Sheamus and AJ having a match. The match was pretty well contested by both. Involved AJ injuring Sheamus's leg during the match and AJ winning. And then in the post-match, AJ and Sheamus began to berate and insult one another, which led to Omos getting involved. And then Sheamus getting tangled up in the ropes, which looked ridiculous. And then he was upside down with the referee coming out to check on him, where the ref could have just helped him, I guess, but didn't. And then all the blood rushing to Sheamus's head gets pelted with a million chair shots by AJ Styles. I don't know what to think of it. What do you think, Luke?
Well, it was very interesting how, and the commentators were leading to this as well, about no Drew McIntyre and not coming to his aid. I really hope they're not setting up a program for Drew McIntyre and Sheamus.
They are.
That's what they're doing. After obviously Sheamus bro-kicked Drew McIntyre as well a week or two ago. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't really understand about the dirt sheet. Miz, I watch anything with a Miz, apart from Miz and Mrs. Anything. Anything on Raw or SmackDown, I think Miz is great. He's a great talker, a really good worker, and you're right. It was cringeworthy, but it was also pretty funny. It did make me laugh.
Yeah, I think the Miz's involvement in this angle is interesting, considering he has the Money in the Bank briefcase.
That was done very well.
I do think that, this is how I think it might play out. I think that eventually Miz is going to steal the title from Drew.
Yeah,
and it'll be due to something that Sheamus does, like either purposefully or not on purpose, and that will lead to a one-on-one match between the two friends that doesn't need a title involved, because heaven forbid we don't want Sheamus being the WWE champion again. And then I think the Miz could potentially then go on to feud with AJ Styles or so forth. So you never know how it might play out, but I don't see the Miz cashing in and not winning the title. I think he is long overdue. When it happens, he will be the champ again. I don't think it will be a long or lengthy reign. And there's also the potential for him to feud with Morrison as well, because going back to when he won the briefcase from Otis, he kind of snuck it out of Morrison's grasp and only wrote his own name on the contract. So there could be some kind of thing going on there. I don't know.
That's where I think it's going to go.
A great start to Raw. So my second segment that is my big takeaway from Raw is involving the wonderful Lana, which I never thought I'd be saying.
Russian.
Being the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. I think for the last 9 weeks, she's been put through the announce table by Nia Jax, or being beaten up by Shayna Baszler. But she's been intriguing. So this week she had a scheduled match with Nia Jax. There was a bit of pep talk from Asuka, because of course they were deemed to be tag partners at TLC. So before the match, Asuka gave her a bit of a pep talk backstage. Lana came to the ring. She got a bit of a beat down. Nia Jax went to give her like a sit-down power bomb in the corner or so forth. And then got somehow tangled up where Lana pinned her and won, which I thought was bizarro. Afterwards, Asuka and Shayna got involved. There was a bit of a beatdown on all of the good guys, and Lana got her leg crushed by Nia Jax's bottom, basically. So later in the show, it's revealed that Lana's now out of the match, which seems so weird considering there's been so much build-up for that. We've obviously seen potential filler-ins for that in Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, and there's talk of others. I don't know. It seems very bizarre. Lana, I never thought would be good, and now I'm kind of upset she's gone away. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I think it's been long overdue. Like, it seemed to happen around about the time that Rusev or Toby Miro, whatever he goes by now, joined AEW, and so perhaps like Vince's vindictive way of getting back, and having Lana put through a table by Nia Jax week in, week out. It was obviously going to pay off in one way or another for Lana. The way that she won, I was pretty impressed with her movement. Like, she was on the top rope and she flipped down, but did it really seamlessly, like very good and choreographically really well done. The position that she pinned Nia Jax in didn't look too comfortable for either lady. Yeah, but I'm pleased that she won. This business about now she's out, that just seems like they've taken one step forward and two steps back. It doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it is a bit strange. Well, yeah, I do think that originally it was a punishment because of the sins of Rusev going to the other company. But yeah, I don't know. It's a bizarro one, and that's the nature of the WWE. I do remember they pulled a stint like this on Apollo Crews early in the year.
Yep.
They gave him a rocket to the moon, and then they injured him at a random time when he was doing so well. And then they brought him back and he won the United States title. So maybe we'll see something with Lana where she comes back and either wins those tag titles with Asuka, or potentially even takes Asuka's belt, which I don't want to see, but you never know.
Yeah, that's my fear, that it's going to end up a feud between her and Asuka and she somehow wins it.
Well, my third takeaway from Raw this week involved Bray Wyatt.
Yep.
And he was on a field trip to the arena, because apparently that's a thing. And he brings along all of his funhouse friends, Ramblin' Rabbit, and I can't remember the other names of the other ones, the Huskus the pig, and so forth. And they're all sitting ringside. And he basically gives a monologue to Randy Orton, how he likes Randy Orton and he's proud of him, but he just doesn't want to see what's going to go down with the Fiend, his alter ego, and Orton at TLC. And to which Randy Orton replies with a Titantron message where he jovially brushes off the idle threats of Wyatt and then invites him to have a game of hide and seek around the arena, which in some ways seems weird, but in other ways seems quite cool.
Yep.
So, because Randy Orton has been known to play mind games and tricks on people. We saw a few weeks ago he was dressed as a janitor and he went in and bet up the legends. So he does like to hide backstage and muck around.
Yep.
So Bray goes on this hunt for Orton around the arena. At one point, he bumps into Matt Riddle, and Matt Riddle wants to sell him the idea on bro nuts, which I thought was pretty lame.
Yeah.
Matt Riddle is just not doing it for me.
No, it's rubbish.
And then there's another point where Bray Wyatt actually they forgot to turn his modulator off on his voice, and you can actually hear Bray Wyatt's voice behind, I think it's Huskus the pig, just speaking in Bray Wyatt's normal voice, which was quite funny. So later on in the show, he finds a empty, darkened room with a rocking chair. Bray's all very giddy and excited, so he goes and has a sit down. Obviously a throwback to his earlier Bray Wyatt cult personality. And as he's rocking back and forth in the chair, Randy Orton appears, beat down in shoes, and then there's just some random box that Bray gets thrown into. And when he's inside the box, Randy then pours gasoline all over the box, which was quite frightening, and then sets the box on fire, which I thought, wow, like this is the PG era, apparently, of WWE. Now we're setting people on fire. It was quite shocking, and it wasn't even the end of the show.
No.
And that's not all. So Randy's laughing and cackling evilly, and then the box opens and the Fiend is inside. Wow, he's transformed, and he doesn't burn, apparently. And the Fiend then attacks Randy Orton and applies the mandible claw. Thank you, Mankind. And he basically puts Randy down, which was quite cool. It was a great last image before we lead into the pay-per-view. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was excellently done. Like it was, I was kind of sat there watching it thinking, where's this going? Where's this going? It then became obvious, obviously, this is what happened previously. 2 or 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, in fact, when Orton had won the Rumble, then Elimination Chamber, Bray Wyatt won, and they clashed. But the lead up to that is Orton set alight the House of Sister Abigail, which was another alter ego of Bray Wyatt's. Yeah, like visually seeing how it was done and the way that it was done, it was pretty shocking. It was like, wow. And it went up really fast. It's a good segue into the Inferno match. Well,
wasn't it interesting, Luke, that they didn't announce the Inferno match until like midweek?
Yeah,
like I
Wednesday
thought that would be quite a big deal, and they just suddenly gave that some light. I guess they just thought that this match needed something more. What do you think?
Yeah, like it does need something more. It does need a bit more of a build up. But it's for not one of the biggest pay-per-views, so it's kind of a filler pay-per-view, isn't it? Before the Rumble and before Rumble season starts. Yeah, like I did like what I was going to lead into is the way the Fiend came out of the box was also visually quite exciting and really cool to see. Overall I like the segment. You and I discussed it back and forth in the week, and I went back and watched it again after we had a chat, and yeah, I like the segment.
Hopefully they haven't done something crazy and like killed off the Funhouse Bray character somehow. I hope that hasn't happened.
Yeah, I hope that's what happened.
Because he's one of the greatest things going at the moment. But yeah, so that's my 3 takeaways from Raw. How about you? We segue that into your takeaways from SmackDown.
Yeah, so that's the way it's going to be, isn't it? That you do the Raw, I do the SmackDown, and yeah, I woke up this morning full of beans. Not literally, but I was excited to watch SmackDown. So I had up my tablet and I was watching away and taking my notes. Overall, for the go home show towards a pay-per-view, it was a bit naff. It was a bit of a poor episodes. Like I took 3 takeaways. The last one is more of a grumble rather than an actual takeaway. One thing I do want to bring up though is the 2020-2021 advert they did. I couldn't decide whether I liked it or whether I thought it was the worst thing on WWE TV.
I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, I did. But I was kind of like...
It was definitely something we don't want to see again in a hurry, though.
No, it was with Michael Cole commentating on it. Oh, my God. But yeah, my first point, and this was probably the highlight, if you will, the best of a bad bunch, was Kevin Owens and Jey Uso. To open the show, I thought it was overall it was a pretty poor show, but the Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens stuff, and with the tribe leader, stuff that Reigns has been doing with Jey Uso beside him and Paul Heyman is good, and Kevin Owens, I don't know how he does it. He looks like he's just fallen into the sort of the unforgiven area of the mid card, and he's never going to recover. And then he just rejuvenates himself, and he's now in the main card attraction again. And I think he's going to put on a great show tomorrow with Reigns. The end of the show, I think, was quite telling. I wish they hadn't done the final segment where they were about to interview Reigns at the back, and he's looking at the TV, and Kevin Owens is coming out from underneath the tables and the chairs and the ladder, and he sits on, and I think he closed it with like, I won't quit, or something like this. That means
he said something like, I'm either going to win the title or I'm going to die trying.
Oh, I'm going to die trying. That means he's going to die trying. I wish they had left it with just him under a pile of weapons, and we move on and go to the pay-per-view, because then that gives you that element of, well, Reigns got it over on him on SmackDown. Maybe what if Kevin Owens gets his own back, gets that retribution back for what happened? His retribution was getting out from underneath the chairs, so he's not going to win. And I was really disappointed with that at the end, because
the scariest thing you just said then was the word retribution, though. Yeah. I'm worried that they're going to get involved.
If the cameras start flashing in a minute, we've called them.
Here comes Slapjack! Oh no!
My next point, and again, it wasn't wrestling, but the Sammy Awards I thought were pretty funny. So Sami Zayn is probably currently the most, I said detestable, I'd say more annoying heel in the WWE, and he does it so well. He's so smug and he's so squirmy, and you just want to see him get what's coming for him. And with Big E coming out, and Sammy won the Superstar of the Year, and he won the Return of the Year, he won the Match of the Year, and then the last one, Sami Zayn's going to win Superstar of the Year, and Big E's fiddled it, and he's won it, and he comes out and accepts it, and he starts with, "Oh mama, I made it." Sami Zayn's just stood there looking at him, and then obviously a little bit of a brawl ensues, and I thought it was the way that Big E did it, the way he threw him down the ramp, looked really cool, and he was just standing there, and then he smashed the trophy, and then just went back in. I thought it was really good. It was funny, and I really hope that it leads to something. As I said previously, bigger for Big E, but I think Sami Zayn is so good at what he does. He's excellent.
Yeah. Were those trophies just as action figures spray painted gold?
That's what they look like. They look like you just sort of made them in his basement. It was like the fine details with Sami Zayn are so good. The way he'd done his hair, he looked horrible and greasy. Like he's so good.
I think that Big E and Sammy are just way capable of more than what WWE give them. They're two great performers, number one.
Mm-hmm.
They're two great characters, number two. And they just keep getting given trash.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to do wonderful things with it. Like the New Day was rubbish at the beginning, and somehow it became good. And I think that's due to Big E mostly.
Big E, yeah.
And then 100%. Sami Zayn, how many times can that guy be given some crappy storylines and just turn them to gold?
He does.
I remember that Bobby Lashley one a few years ago with his sisters, and then somehow he turned it around. Like, I'd like to see more from these two. I do think Sami Zayn, he's never going to go above his level now, which is a shame. But the more we see of him, the better. And this segment was just classic.
It was very good. And the last one, like I said, I'm a bit torn because I hated both. And I'll give my reasons for why. But Chad Gable and Otis and that weird storyline, what is going on there? Like, is Chad Gable a heel? Like, what's happening? Obviously, it's fitting that there's going to be some kind of program for the two of them where they're going to.
Don't you get it, Luke?
It's
Shorty
dreadful.
G was the good guy. Chad Gable was the bad guy. Come on.
It's so poor. And what was his line? He said, "Don't listen to me. what did he say? It said something. It just didn't make any sense. I was like, what are you talking about? And I really like. I'm a big supporter of Otis. Like, I think he's pretty funny. And like last year in the Rumble where he was there and he was catching Mandy Rose, like from going from that to this, it's awful. It really is bad. And the other one was Bianca Belair versus Bayley, and Bianca Belair is meant to have a rocket strapped to her at the moment, as far as what I'm reading. Like, she's meant to be like the next big thing. And she lost to Bayley with a screwy finish, where Bayley had like what she eye poked her, and then couldn't reach the 3 count, and was still out on her back afterwards. Like, they've just trashed her. I couldn't believe it. Like, she's meant to be the one that is going to be facing Sasha Banks for the title. She's meant to be this all around athletic superstar, and she goes and loses to Bayley.
He's the EST of WWE.
She is.
You know, I didn't understand what EST of WWE meant until today. It's the last letters of greatest, fastest, tallest. EST.
God. So
yeah, I thought it was something to do with like Russell Athletic branding, you know, EST established or something. Yeah, how does that make sense? But now it makes sense to me.
The super
WWE. Shocking. Really I don't know why they're crapping all over her. Like, Bayley doesn't need that win.
No, she doesn't.
And I just got nothing more to say on it. I think it was just a weird thing when you're trying to strap a rocket and send them to the moon.
Really strange. Really, really strange.
Oh, thank you, Luke, for those SmackDown offerings. I do think that the Raw and SmackDown takeaways will be a good weekly feature.
Yep.
We're going to revisit something now that we started last week, but we're just going to have a quick break, and we'll be returning soon for our WrestleBeards Top 3. See you soon.
Cheers.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. That was a great first segment introducing the news and the Raw and SmackDown takeaways. And now we're going to revisit some of our segments we introduced last week. So first up, we've got our WrestleBeards Top 3. And it was successful last week. A lot of people I've talked to enjoyed it. Talking about the Legends House, which we said we'd never mention again, and now I just have. Sorry about that. So this week, we've got another interesting one. Talking about TLC, and obviously TLC being a gimmick-related pay-per-view, tables, ladders, and chairs. This week, we're going to look at some of the best weapons utilized by wrestlers that we have always cherished from the past. Obviously, TLC being tables from the Dudleys, ladders from the Hardys, and chairs from the Concertos of Edge and Christian. There's been some memorable uses of weapons throughout the years. And who's your number 3 pick for your favorite weapon-related wrestler, Luke?
Yeah, so my first one dates back to the mid-90s, and around about the time I started watching wrestling, and it's a Big Boss Man and his nightstick, which he would whip off from his waist, and he was able to sort of spin it around his hand and his fingers like this, and when he hit you with it, it held such weight, like it was such a valued weapon. If he struck you with it, then you went down and you lost, because that was it. It was such a protected weapon, if you will. Sure. So yeah, the nightstick and falls in line with the character of how he used to dress and setting the rules. And yeah, I used to get very excited. I look back on fond memories of seeing that, and when he would use it against his opponent.
Yeah, Big Boss Man was one of my favorites, actually. He had quite a career until his unfortunate passing, I think, well before he should have gone.
Yeah.
That nightstick was epic.
It was.
And I guess that kind of gimmick couldn't go down in today's society with Black Lives Matter and so forth.
No way.
For sure. No, I definitely like that. Well, my number 3 weapon-related wrestler is the Honky Tonk Man, and how he used to brandish a guitar to the ring, where obviously his gimmick was an Elvis-style rock star.
Yep.
And he used to serenade the audience with his guitar at the beginning of the match, so they already hated him for that. And then he went on to normally win his matches, where he was known to be one of, or I think he still is, the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion ever. And then normally his match either would end with a DQ for his opponent, where he would brandish the guitar and then smash it over his opponent's head, which was quite shocking and visual to see.
Yeah.
And you always wanted to see it, even though you were probably rooting for the other guy. It was always exciting to see him bring it out.
Yeah.
And even more exciting when his opponent would get the guitar and smash it over the Honky Tonk Man's head, which did happen on a few occasions. I do remember he made a comeback at the Rumble a few years ago.
Yeah.
And he had some altercation with Kane. And Kane ended up smashing it over his head, or maybe it was even Drew Carey or something.
It was the 2001 or 2002 Rumble. And that was my first exposure to Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
So that was my first exposure to him. And yeah, he received the blast of the guitar and the smash it smithereens. Just one hit, I think it was, from Kane across his
sure. Of course, that gimmick also inspired a few others to follow on, like Jeff Jarrett in WCW, who had Slapnuts, his guitar, and he used to smash that on his opponents.
Yep.
And then more recently, we've seen Elias either be the one smashing or the one being smashed by his own guitar. So I was always waiting to see actually Honky Tonk Man do a return and have something with Elias, but it never came about.
No, it's not. Obviously, most recently, Honky Tonk Man was inducted into the Hall of Fame, wasn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
Not this year, but last year. I thought his Hall of Fame speech, because he's not a well-liked guy in the community, Honky Tonk Man. I think he's not a good worker. He's not a fair worker. I actually thought he was pretty cool. I thought his speech was excellent, and then at the end, serenading the audience, I thought was pretty fun.
Yeah, and also just to finish off there, I think his gimmick is his weapon. You know, like if he didn't have that guitar and he didn't swing it at people, he didn't have much else going for him.
No, he didn't. No,
essentially. So that's why he's so synonymous with that weapon, and it has to be up there for me. So who's your number 2 pick, Luke?
So my number 2 pick, I had quite a few that I was going over, but purely because this was at my time of watching, and again, the sheer spectacle of it was Cactus Jack and his barbed wire bat. In particular, Royal Rumble 2000, Madison Square Garden, where he fought Triple H for the title, and he had done that return. He was Mankind. He was saying, well, as Mankind, I can't face you, but as Cactus Jack, and he rips his mask off, I think is probably one of the best promos SmackDown's ever had.
Bang, bang!
It was incredible. But in that match, when he pulls out the barbed wire bat, the whole crowd just goes, "Whoa!" Like, it looks amazing. Then leading on to, obviously, he lost in what was an amazing match, one of my favorite matches of all time at the Rumble. So then No Way Out the following month, Hell in a Cell, and he brings out the barbed wire bat again and sets it on fire on top of the cage. It was just mental, and it held such just shock value of seeing something which I don't know how it can't hurt. It's real barbed wire. It's a heavy bat, and they would use the barbed wire and they would rake it across your face. That has to hurt. That has to be painful. And it all get chewed up on his arm and on his leg. The interesting thing about it was, though, every time it came out, you knew it was Cactus Jack that was going to be receiving it, and it was going to be on the end of it. Triple H did take one shot across the face in the Rumble match, and kind of crimson mask everywhere. But other than that, it was always Cactus Jack getting pedigreed onto it, or Cactus Jack taking a suplex onto it, or something like that. So in the end, I was like, just don't bring the bat out, Mick. Like, just
why do you always bring it up, Mick? Exactly.
But yeah, no, Cactus Jack barbed wire bat.
It's an insane prop and weapon. Yeah, it's something like, I mean, I don't particularly want to be hit by a nightstick either, but I don't want to be hit by barbed wire. That just seems like something you'd never want to be hit with. Okay, well, thanks for that addition. My second pick is one that has been going around a few different wrestlers through the years as well. And it's the green mist spray that people spray into people's faces. And it's normally associated with Japanese-based wrestlers or Japanese origin wrestlers. It was first introduced to me in WCW by the Great Muta, who used to spit green mist into his opponent's eyes. And later on, it was reintroduced in the WWE by Tajiri, who was one of my favorite sort of mid-card wrestlers back in the Attitude Era. He used to team up with William Regal, and they had some funny sort of banter back and forth because of the Lost in Translation. And it would normally involve Regal getting on the end of the green mist, which was always quite funny to see. And then again, in more recent times, we've seen Asuka take on the green mist. And especially when she's playing a heel character, she often uses it. Now, when you really think about it, it's quite disgusting spitting on someone, which kind of is
at the moment
quite horrific, and it's quite visual as well. Obviously, you know, you see it, it's spray, and it's something different. So, and to be used by a female as well, not a lot of female wrestlers often have weapon tropes or mischievous things that they use. So it's quite nice to see someone do something a little bit different.
That actually reminded me of when I was younger, doing some sort of backyard wrestling with my friends, and we had bought some blood capsules, some red blood capsules. And I chucked them in my mouth and I chewed them up. And I went to do the big like Tajiri used to do, where you go like this and it would go shh. And I just went went straight into my friend's face, and it was just like this horrible red blob that just kind of slowly went down his face. And he was like, "What are you doing?" Oh, sorry, I was hoping it would like spray.
It would have looked like some poor man's gangrel.
Oh, it looked awful. It looked terrible. Like I just basically phlegmed in my mate's face. It was really bad.
Oh, well, okay. Moving on then. Who's your number one weapon-based wrestler?
So my number one, and this is because of the way it's being used. And again, the how protected as a weapon it was. If this weapon came into play, then the person it was used against generally lost. And so it's Triple H and his sledgehammer. And it was so good in the matches with Undertaker. So the ones at WrestleMania and the sledgehammer would come out. I remember in the Hell in a Cell, and Undertaker's got him in the Hell's Gate, was it? The chokehold that he used to do. And Triple H is kind of reaching around, and he managed to get the sledgehammer, and just the anticipation of it and just how exciting it was. And yeah, Triple H using that, it just, it made him a badass. Like it made him like the guy he is today, the cerebral assassin, as they call him. That like he was to be feared, because he would wield this weapon and wasn't afraid to use it. And it was that sledgehammer is what I feel defines Triple H as the
totally
years.
It always pissed me off that, because he was such a good wrestler anyway, that he needed something else, but because he did use that extra something else, it made you despise him even more.
It did, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big Triple H fan. I never have been, but it was something polarizing for sure seeing him wield that. Sledgehammers aren't any light object, are
No,
they?
they're not. No, they're absolutely not. They're used to break concrete.
Right.
You don't go whacking people's
My,
heads with
my
them.
number one pick on the list is probably something the complete polar opposite of the sledgehammer. And it's our second mention of this person on our list, which is quite interesting. So this is Mankind and Mr. Socko,
Yeah,
which, when thought about, it seems like a pathetic item. It's a dirty sock with a smiley face drawn on it and sometimes a business tie. And he used to brandish it on his hand and then give the mandible claw by putting the sock down someone's throat and choking them out. So, yeah, I had to put it as my number one because it defines what I remember seeing as something so outrageous during when I first started watching WWE.
Yeah.
Much like Kane, when Kane debuted, we talked about last week.
Yeah.
Mankind was this random, like not human kind of character. And the fact that he was a bit demented and pulled out a sock and it was an alter ego of himself, who was already an alter ego of himself, was quite crazy. And then to put this sock in someone's throat, I can't imagine knowing what that would feel like to have a sock put down my throat.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was disgusting.
Pulling out his sweatpants. Ugh. Horrible.
Not something I'd enjoy doing.
No.
Well, that's it for the WrestleBeards top 3 for this week. And we're going to return soon after a small break with our homework.
Yes,
Stay tuned.
Cheers.
Welcome back, WrestleBeard fans, to our last segment of the day, which is Luke and my favorite segment, homework, because we love to give it out. We are the nasty teachers who love to give out lots and lots of homework. But this homework isn't so bad. So basically, it's an offering, wrestling-based, that we think you might like to entertain the idea of looking at or watching. And you can do that in your off time before we see you again next week. So, Luke, do you want to start us off with your offering for today's piece of homework?
Yeah, absolutely. So it feels a bit weird promoting another podcast on your own podcast, but these boys have they do an excellent job, and yeah, I think they're great. So I mentioned last week it's the Attitude Era podcast. They review old Attitude Era pay-per-views and Raw and Smackdown segments. And again, if you were a fan of the product at that time, go and give it a listen, because it gives you memories that you had forgotten about. It reminds you of how everything unfolded at this time and in what it was quite a key era of wrestling, and I think my favorite era of wrestling, the Attitude Era era. Like it was polarizing. As I said, it covers various important stages through wrestling history, and they talk alongside it, Kevin and Billy Keeble. And it's on SoundCloud. They've got various different points, so you don't have to listen to a certain area if you don't want to. You can go back and pick and choose as you go. And these podcasts last about 3.5, 4 hours. So if you're on a long commute or you're going somewhere, it's good to listen to. My favorite is the Invasion storyline between WWE, WCW, and ECW on what had the making of being something amazing, and was in fact dreadful, because the WCW and ECW superstars were not very good. But the way the boys recount it and retell it, it's so funny. It's laugh out loud funny. So yeah, Attitude Era podcast, SoundCloud, go and give it a listen.
Well, that's a great offering. I have heard a bit of that before, and I will attest that it is really entertaining, probably a lot more entertaining than our podcast. But that said, it's good to listen to a bit of everything. Okay, well, my offering this week for homework is a magazine, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, known as PWI, and I've got a copy right here. Oh, here we go.
Nice.
And not only is it a great publication that's been around for a long, long time, but this current issue is their 30th anniversary of the PWI 500, which is an annual list that comes out. And basically, some of the insiders in the industry and obviously the editors of the magazine all have a vote on who the best top 500 wrestlers in the world are. And it's always interesting to see who gets the various picks. Wrestlers themselves like to check in and see where they are ranked. So it does mean something to those in the industry. So yeah, this current issue, and normally, what was this one? It says 40 ringgit, so it's not too much money. That's like about $10 equivalent. And it's a good read. This one is obviously really focused on the PWI, so mentioning 500 wrestlers takes up a bit of space in the magazine. But also featured in this magazine are an editorial by the editor Kevin McAlvany, who, first of all, just does a little bit of a spiel on Jushin Thunder Liger, who's a very famous decorated Japanese wrestler, who is featured in the last 29 top 500 lists, and this is the first one where he's not featured, and that's because he retired last year, so he obviously wouldn't be in the list. But it's pretty amazing that someone featured in 29 years of top wrestling lists, not even Hulk Hogan or so forth would have ever been able to do that. I was lucky enough to actually see Thunder in Japan when he was fighting for New Japan a couple of years ago, and watched him, and he was obviously past his prime, but it was something interesting to see. So that was cool to read. Now, I might go through the top 10. Would that be interesting for you, Luke?
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
So I won't spoil the whole 500, nor do I have the time to do so. But I'll read from 10th place upward. So in number 10 spot was AJ Styles. In number 9 spot was Kofi Kingston.
Wow, okay.
Which seems weird, but he did start the year as the WWE champion, I believe, or
that was 2 years
something.
ago.
2 years ago, I don't know. But anyway, number 8, Seth Rollins. Number 7, Cody Rhodes.
Okay.
Number 6, Kazuchika Okada.
Yeah, no,
So if you're not
Okada,
familiar with Japanese wrestling, he's one of the big players. Number 5, Tetsuya Naito, another big player in New Japan. Number 4, Drew McIntyre.
Wow, okay.
Number 3, Chris Jericho.
Yep, agreed, yeah.
Number 2, Adam Cole, baby.
Yeah.
Adam Cole, NXT. And number 1, and also having an interview in the magazine where they ask him about what it feels like to be number 1. Is, can you guess? Do you know?
I'm going to... One name on the tip of my tongue, Kenny Omega.
No.
No?
I know. He's not even in there. It's John Moxley.
Oh, wow.
He got the number 1 slot.
Well,
obviously, he's just lost his title recently to Omega, but he was the title holder for most of this year.
Okay.
And reading the interview, it's really, really interesting just seeing about his departure from WWE and how he's enjoying AEW, and obviously being the number 1 ranked wrestler on such an esteemed list. So very, very interesting. It also has, quite interestingly, like a list at the back where you can see where your wrestler is, just to quickly find them. So I was going to ask you, Luke, do you have anyone that you're just interested in knowing where their ranking is? And then I'm going to ask you to predict their number out of 500.
Oh, goodness.
Now, these can be low card, mid card kind of people.
Okay. I'm interested to know where Daniel Bryan is.
Daniel Bryan.
He'll be in the top 20. I think he'll be number 16.
So you're going Daniel Bryan, number 16?
Yeah.
Well, Daniel Bryan is number 32. Number 32.
Wow.
There we go. All right, let's have another one. There are females involved as well.
Okay. I'm going to say Nia Jax. Number 420.
Let me find. Actually, Nia Jax is not even listed in the list. How about that?
That's not a surprise.
Give us an AEW star that you're interested in.
I'm interested to know where Kenny Omega is then. So it didn't even make it in the top 10. So Kenny Omega, again, I would say it has to be top 20. And I'd say bottom end. Top 20,
Omega.
13 for Kenny Omega.
Let's have a look. He is 13. He is 13.
There we go.
That's freaky. He's one behind Brock Lesnar and one ahead of Roman Reigns, 14.
Behind Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. And also behind Keith Lee.
Who are these people voting on this?
Well,
Brock Lesnar, number
something
12.
to think about and dispute, and some now reason to go and check out where your other wrestlers are in the PWI 500 of 2020.
Very good.
So that's my offering for homework this week.
Excellent.
And with that, I think we'll end this podcast for the week. I do apologize if there've been some sound issues. We are trying to deal with those at the moment, but we will improve them over the coming podcasts.
We will.
But I will say it's been a lot of fun, Luke. What do you think?
Same again. Something I look forward to, as I said last week. It isn't a chore sitting and talking to my mate about wrestling. So yeah, let's keep it up. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Very good. Very good.
Sure. Well, coming up soon, we will be releasing a predictions video about TLC. So that's something also to look forward to. And we hope you enjoy TLC, and we'll see you again for a future podcast or video. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you soon at WrestleBeards Worldwide.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
This is WWE Hall of Famer The Godfather, and I would like you to like and share this video and subscribe to the channel.